Have you ever walked into a room and felt, as if by some quiet vote of the cosmos, a small warm body decided in that exact moment to sit beside you and make everything less heavy? That sensation, an animal's attention landing on your chest like a soft, knowing hand, feels accidental until you notice how rarely true accidents happen in the architecture of our inner lives. Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, offered readings that invited people to look beneath apparent coincidence. When he spoke of animals and their roles in human life, he sketched a map where every encounter has latitude and purpose. Consider, for a moment, the possibility that what we call pet is a word too small for the office many dogs quietly hold in our lives. Picture Cayce in the dim, familiar room where he gave his trance readings, a man reclining, voice gentle and steady as an old bell. His followers wrote pages and pages of what he spoke: healing, reincarnation, the hidden ties that knot soul to soul. And among those pages there are moments that brush against the lives we live today. References, interpretations, and the kind of intimations that feel like early morning light on things we are still learning to see. If he spoke of dogs as guardians, it's not a simple claim about loyalty or training. It's a larger thesis about the roles animals play in human evolution, emotional resilience, and the quiet education of the heart. When you let that idea land, you begin to notice patterns. Dogs showing up when grief is raw, returning to those who are lost, naming in their actions a kind of sacrament. Bring to mind the instant you first met your dog. Was there paperwork and prediction, or a sudden, inexplicable alignment? Eyes locking, breathing matching, a mutual recognition that felt older than either of you? Those moments are where ordinary time frays and something else steps in, like a seamstress hemming two different fabrics until they lie smooth. Cayce's readings, interpreted with care, suggest that certain souls are drawn together across more than the calendar, that some connections are prearranged, heaven-knotted in ways we can hardly talk about without sounding like poets. If you treat that idea respectfully, it changes how you respond to those nudges and how you give thanks for the ordinary miracles a dog performs simply by staying. There's a hum of practicality to this mystery, too. Modern science now names what poets and prophets have long intuited. Dogs lower cortisol, reduce blood pressure, and steady the frantic mind. Veterans who return hollowed out by war find a kind of repair in the even rhythms of a dog's presence. Therapy programs place dogs in hospitals and schools because the effect is neither purely sentimental nor imagined. But the deeper claim, one that whispers through Cayce's words, is that this healing operates not only chemically, but metaphysically. The dog's attention, its untheatrical readiness to sit in the room where pain lives, is a kind of shielding, less about armoring and more about translation, converting distress into company and company into a new template for safety. Consider a night when sleep felt impossible. You know that dark hush where worries multiply like small shapes under the bed. Then your dog, who had been asleep in another room, appears as if called by a bell you did not hear. He noses your hand, lays his head on your leg, and the relentless narrative of anxiety loosens its grip. If you felt that tide change, you understand that something far subtler than coincidence is at work. Cayce's language might call it a spiritual attunement. Other traditions might call it empathic resonance. Whatever name you give, the phenomenon invites humility. There are processes connecting beings that do not require our constant approval to operate. This idea stretches further when you look at the social landscape. We are living in a time of unprecedented isolation for many, a period where community has been atomized into screens and schedules. Against that backdrop, the function of animals becomes amplified. They are not only companions, but bridges. Dogs, by their very nature, insist on a kind of reciprocity that humans find difficult to sustain. They require walks, responsive presence, and rituals, small demands that anchor days. In meeting those demands, owners find rhythm. In the dog's plain desire to be near, people discover again how to be present. Cayce would likely remind us that rhythm heals, that being tethered to another being's needs pulls us back from being too self-contained. Yet there is also a darker, quieter movement that aligns with the prophecy's framings. Dogs often arrive at thresholds. People report animals underfoot in moments of crisis, during a partner's illness, at the edge of a depressive episode, in the aftermath of trauma, functioning like living alarm clocks for the soul. They may have no concept of diagnosis, but they have an uncanny knack for being where the human heart needs them. Some dogs bark when they sense a seizure coming. Some press against a tremor before it shows. Others remain vigilant in ways their owners only later translate into meaning. Whether you call this instinct, training, or something more esoteric, the pattern is consistent. Dogs often seem wired to attend to states of human vulnerability. If we follow Cayce's logic further, these animals are not merely reacting. They are participating in a long conversation between lives. Cayce often spoke in terms that blurred the line between the physical and the spiritual, a view of the world as layered and responsive. Under that view, a dog's presence is a small but significant stanza in an ongoing liturgy of care. They are teachers without chalkboards, asking us, through their simple needs, to come back to the basics: rhythm, touch, honest attention. Each time we answer, we produce a little transformation in the architecture of our own interior spaces. That transformation is not theatrical. It's accumulative, like a slow rain that alters the hardness of a field over seasons. There's an ethical implication here too. If dogs are, in some deep sense, helpers for our souls, then the contract between human and canine is not one-sided. It calls for stewardship that is moral as well as practical. To feed, walk, and shelter a dog is to meet its physical needs, but true stewardship asks for attunement, noticing changes in behavior, respecting rest, and acknowledging a dog's inner life as real and consequential. Cayce's work often urged compassion translated into action. In the context of animals, this compassion becomes a practice that refines us. The quieter masterpieces of our lives are found in these daily acts of care and in how we reciprocate the protection dogs offer. Think about the language we use: guardian, companion, therapy dog. Each term picks out a facet of the same gem, yet none contain it wholly. The guardian is a role that suggests vigilance. The companion implies mutual pleasure. The therapy dog connotes institutional recognition. What Cayce intimates is that the dog can wear many masks at once, and that flexibility is part of the miracle. A single animal may guard a child's dreams, guide an adult through grief, and, without complaint, be a patient participant in a hospital corridor. Their versatility is not merely behavioral adaptability. It hints at a deeper freedom of purpose, a soul not bound to one function, but capable of responding to the contours of human need. You might ask, is this belief useful or only poetic? The answer is both practical and liberating. Belief, when married to practice, becomes a technology of living. If you begin to think of your dog as an intentional presence, someone who arrived with a relational brief, you change the way you listen. You begin to catalog tiny signals, respect their silences, and honor their small teachings. The result is not mystical fervor so much as a disciplined attention to the everyday, a mindfulness that rewrites how days are spent. Cayce's suggestion that animals partake in spiritual tasks becomes then a manual for living. How to make your household a temple where care circulates freely. There are also moments when the connection feels explicitly reciprocal and uncanny. Owners of rescue dogs often describe an immediate sense of recognition, as if the animal and human have found a mutual refuge. Rescue, in this framing, is not simply a logistical event, but a metaphysical rehoming. Dogs carry histories in their bodies: fear, joy, the tremor of a past life. And when those histories meet receptive humans, healing can be swift and deep. Cayce's readings, which frequently emphasized past life relations and karmic ties, would find resonance here. Some bonds are continuations, not fresh starts, and recognizing that can change how we respond to the work of loving an animal back. It matters too that we take seriously the idea of training not only the dog, but ourselves. If a dog's instinct to protect and comfort can be amplified by care, then our task is to cultivate environments where that instinct can shine, not be muted by stress or neglect. Training that respects a dog's temperament and recognizes their communicative signals magnifies their ability to serve in the role they seem drawn to. Cayce's broader ethic of aligning with the hidden laws of spirit translates here into a practical maxim: shape the conditions so the good things that animals naturally do can flourish. As much as we speak of dogs' gifts to humans, there is also the quiet teaching they provide about mortality and presence. Dogs age visibly and teach us how to be with decline without rushing to fix it. Their rhythms remind us that time is not merely to be managed, but to be inhabited. In their aging, we learn patience. In their joyful mornings, we relearn gratitude. Cayce's readings often asked listeners to attend to the small, sacred moments, the ones that appear trivial until you realize they are the ones that form a life. Dogs, in their entire arc from puppy to elder, enact that counsel. Pay attention to the small things, and your life aggregates into something large and meaningful. There is a practical caution embedded in all this. The spiritual reading of an animal's role should never become a license for neglect. Believing your dog is a guardian is not a reason to offload responsibility. On the contrary, it should deepen your duty. Spiritual responsibility and physical care are two sides of the same coin. The generosity of a dog's presence demands reciprocity, and that reciprocity is lived in the simple, often unnoticed things: consistent feeding, gentle handling, health checkups, and the unglamorous patience of daily companionship. These are the rituals that allow whatever metaphysical role a dog might play to remain robust and life-giving. And what of loss? When a dog passes, it can feel like a lighthouse extinguished, sudden and absolute. Cayce's teachings about reincarnation and the persistence of the soul offer a framework that many find consoling, an assurance that bonds do not simply unravel. Whether or not you hold to a strict doctrine of continued life, the human mind is resilient and creative in grieving. Rituals help. We create altars, keep collars, tell stories, and in doing so we honor the dialectic between presence and absence. The teachings that ask us to see dogs as part of a broader spiritual economy also ask us to grieve with intention, to integrate loss into a narrative where love persists rather than evaporates. At its core, the proposition is generous without being mantic. It is an invitation: notice. Let your life be informed by the small, steady presences you live with. If Cayce's readings point in the direction of a cosmos where care is built into relationships, then recognizing dogs as spiritual allies is not metaphysical indulgence, but a practical reorientation. It asks little else than humility, attentiveness, and the willingness to let your days be shaped by another being's straightforward requirements. That relinquishing of absolute control is itself a remedy for a culture that prizes autonomy above all else. So as you move through your day, pay attention to the ways your dog maps your inner landscape. Notice where they sit when you are sad, who they choose as their favorite human when guests arrive, how they change when seasons shift. These are data points, not in the clinical sense, but as clues to a life that is co-authored by beings who do not speak our languages, yet teach us essential skills. Cayce's voice, gentle and prophetic, would likely nudge you to treat these clues as teachings, small given lessons about how to be less solitary and more attuned to the living world around you. Finally, there is a quiet call to action that comes through all of this. Treat the bond with reverence and curiosity. Ask questions without needing immediate answers. Sit more on the floor. Attend to the small signs. Make space in your schedule and heart for rituals that keep the relationship alive. A consistent walk, an unhurried grooming, the simple habit of listening. In doing so, you allow whatever guardian work your dog does to flourish, and you become a better steward of the mysterious economy of care that binds us. The circle closes when you see that caring for a dog reshapes you as much as they reshape you. You become steadier, more dependable, more present. The dog's watchfulness is returned through your attention. Their guardianship is met with your fidelity. If Edgar Cayce invited people to look for hidden patterns and acts of care woven into the fabric of life, then paying attention to a dog's silent labor is exactly the kind of practice he would endorse. A discipline that trains the heart, not by force, but by repeated, loving attention. This is not fantastical theory, but a lived experiment available to anyone who opens their door, in their life, to a dog. Perhaps the greatest mystery Cayce left us is not written in dusty transcripts, but living, breathing beside us in the quiet gaze of our dogs. If his prophecy is true, then every wag of a tail and every silent vigil by your side is a reminder that the universe has entrusted you with a guardian in fur. As you step away from this video, carry that thought with you. Your companion is more than chance. They are a thread woven into your destiny. If this message has stirred something within you, help us share it by liking this video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so more seekers can awaken to these hidden truths. And I invite you to share your own story in the comments below, for your experience may be the spark that guides another soul. Until we meet again on this journey of discovery, honor the guardian at your side, and remember, the universe always whispers through the loyal heart of a dog. Thank you for watching.